In this video, we will create a separate server for our API, and we will set up a proxy to address all API requests to the API server. A reverse proxy is a type of proxy server that retrieves data on behalf of a client from one or more servers. In our case, from API server. Basically, we will set up the proxy to retrieve all data requests to the API server, which will be a standalone server in our network. In this way, we will achieve to have proper separation of concerns, a cleaner code, and it will also help security because our internal network structure will be hidden to the client. A reverse proxy will also enable us to run multiple services in different domains without being blocked by the browser security policy, which don't allow cross-domain resource sharing. Finally, in order to distinguish an API call from a request to other type of resources, we will set the proxy to capture all requests to the /API URL. Let's start setting up a new server for our API. We already have almost all code in the current app.js, so let's duplicate app.js and name it API server.js. We can clean a little bit the API server from all stuff we don't need. For instance, we don't need to require favicon and logger in here, and we don't need path2. We don't need to set up a static path in the API server. What else? I'm sure I will forget something. Let's also remove everything we wrote after the APIs. And then we set this server to listen on port 3001. Let's also add a log to confirm us if the API server is up and running. Now we move to terminal and download the npm package called HTTP proxy. This is a package for Node, but there are others similar and specifically for Express. I chose this one because I tested in various scenarios, and it's probably one of the most popular. Before we write the code for setting up the proxy, let's also clean our app.js file from all stuff we don't need anymore. Please don't blame me for putting you in such a situation where you often need to clean what we have done. I had to take into account that some of you might not know what an API is and how to set it up. And explain the API and proxy server together would have been too overwhelming for beginners to absorb in one shot. Alright, so we can remove the body and cookie parser. We then remove all API part of the code. And the requires statement too. Just realize that we also don't need these two lines in API server.js. We can now write the code to create the proxy. We require HTTP proxy package. We then use the create proxy server method, passing an object with the target server address, and we write a middleware that intercepts all requests to the /API URL and retrieves the resources from our proxy. And from server side, our proxy is ready. At this point, we just need to open book section and edit all API calls paths to include the /API prefix. Alright, one last thing, and now we need to start two servers. The web server we used so far, but also the newly created API server. So in package.json file, we edit start value to include the command to start API server. Now we make sure the client app is recompiled by running webpack, otherwise the changes we did in books action will not be reflected. And then we run nodemon, which will launch the two servers. You can now refresh the browser and check that the API is working by posting and deleting a new book. You could also go to localhost 3001/books to see that we have the API server providing the data in JSON format. If you delete the item, you will see that the API is showing just an empty array.